Sam Goodman, really fucking scary stories. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you are doing well wherever you find yourself in this creepy, crawly, and haunted world. I am coming to you from the sunny and the beautiful downtown Phoenix, Arizona, in the lovely, lovely PaleHorseMedia.co studios. Do me a favor, before we get into today's tell, head on over to www.palehorsemedia.co. We have all kinds of great, really fucking scary stories, merch from hats to t-shirts to kind of like everything in between. And I will tell you, like, I'm a t-shirt nerd. I'm a hat nerd. They have to be the right thing, right? They have to be the right shirt. So I'm a nerd for that stuff. So just FYI, if you like kind of like those soft shirts that, they don't feel like you're wearing a cardboard box, it's kind of nice, kind of soft, but it's not so soft that you can like see through it. It's not so thin that when you wash it, it's going to turn into a crop top. And look, nothing against crop tops. I will rock out crop top, muffin top all day long. No problems here. But if you like good t-shirts and you want to support the podcast, head on over to www.palehorsemedia.co, and you can find our other podcasts such as The Hop Nerd and Hey Y'all with Sam Goodman. So today I wanted to do something just a little bit different for this preseason episode. You know that season 2 is coming March the 5th, and we're dropping some of these little preseason horror bombs on you, which is a lot of fun for me because I get to make more podcasts, and it's a lot of fun for you because it gets to tickle your macabre, horror, creepy fancy kind of in the meantime. But I was doing some research, pulling together some notes for some other episodes of the main season, and I came across some ghost stories that I thought were kind of interesting, and I thought it would be fun to share with you a few ghost stories that I came across on the internet. What do you think? We'll share these stories. We'll chat about them a little bit. You'll get some of my reaction to them, and we'll go from there. So let's talk about some really fucking scary stories that I found while cruising the web. First in our lineup of really fucking scary stories today is the story of the ghost of Oxford Milford Road by a storyteller by the name of Brad Culp. When Brad Culp was a student at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, there was a rumor that the town was one of the most haunted places in America. When Culp started an on-campus magazine, he couldn't wait to write about several of the area's most famous phantoms. Not long after his story was published, though, he kept finding himself thinking about one ghost in particular, the ghost of Oxford Milford Road. As the story goes, many decades ago, probably sometime in the 1940s, there was a young man courting a young woman in a rural part of the town. Because the woman's parents didn't approve of the match, each night he visited under the cover of darkness. After her parents went to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her farmhouse and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Then her young suitor would ride his motorcycle down the road. According to the legend, one night, as the young man was on his way to meet his love, he took a turn a little too sharp. The motorcycle went one way, he went another. His injuries were so severe that he did not survive, and rumor has it that his love-struck ghost still haunts this stretch of Milford Road. Culp, who was curious about this tale, and his girlfriend, which is now his wife, and a friend decided to head out there one night and see if they could verify the tale. His girlfriend was worried that she'd be like completely freaked out, I think, as most would be. I think I would be a little freaked out in this situation too. The group was, a little skeptical, but their biggest fear was that their suspicions would be confirmed. So on this particular night, as Culp passed the abandoned farm, an idea came to him. The idea was to cruise down that road, to kind of follow along the tracks of the now deceased lover. He killed the engine and flashed his lights 3 times, and a quote from him was this: "No joke, there was a single headlight that appeared 3/4 of a mile down the road. You saw it start to come, going pretty slow. It kept coming and coming. My wife was freaking out. It was coming closer and closer. As a collision seemed imminent, Culp turned on his car lights. He expected to see a kid on a bicycle bailing out from his prank. Now that he thought that he had been caught, but there was nothing there. The light was just gone." So let's roll back just a second. So there's this legend, right? The lover was cruising on a motorcycle, basically, right? He ditched the motorcycle and got killed. He would pull up there and wait. The woman that he was in love with would come outside, flash the headlights a few times, and this is what he was mimicking. So he pulled down there, he flashed the lights just as the female lover in this story would have done, and lo and behold, a motorcycle, or what appeared to be a motorcycle headlight, appeared and started coming directly for them. When the motorcycle got near them, he turned on his high beams to go, "Hey, kid, cut it out, or whoever's pranking me." And when he did, there was nothing there. They got out of the car. They walked around trying to figure out what had happened to them, what they could have seen. And according to him, to this day, they still talk about it. They saw something that they cannot explain. If you get him and his wife around a campfire, they'll swear up and down that the story is true. And if you're ever in Oxford, Ohio, consider parking for just a few minutes on Oxford-Milford Road at night to test your own nerve. That is definitely a pretty creepy, crawly, kind of skin-tingly story, right? So just imagine being in that position of sitting there, knowing this legend exists, and then kind of tempting it to see if it really does exist, and then boom, all of a sudden you get a response. You flash your light, you get a response, and then thinking that it's a prank, going, "Oh shit, this isn't a prank, there's actually nothing there," getting out, looking around, trying to explain it, and you can't. As far as a ghostly tale goes, it's got all the great elements of a good ghost story, right? It's got tragedy, it's got two lovers that can't be together, it's got all those kind of elements, right? You've got one lover that now has died and they will never be together, and now his ghost is wandering around the countryside, presumably still searching for his love. True or not, I'll let you be the judge. Let's move on to our next ghostly tale. Was it people or was it aliens? A story by Doug Averill, retired and owner-manager of Flathead Lake Lodge. Doug grew up as one of 8 boys on his parents' sprawling dude ranch at the Flathead Lake Lodge in rural Montana. As a teen, the boys ran wild. According to him, we rode around as a little gang of cowboys. He remembers they would saddle up and head off to check on cattle on this large, sprawling tracts of land. These 3 giant tracts of land that the family managed, which formed a triangle around some of the state's most remote rangelands. On the summer, in the 1960s, the brothers came across a ghastly sight. There was on the ground were 3 dead cowboys neatly arranged in a circle. No obvious wounds were visible, but their reproductive organs had been removed. So according to him, but there was never any blood. It was almost surgical removal, Averill remembers. During this decade, Americans were obsessed with aliens. There were write-ups in the local newspaper. There's all kinds of stuff out there about, this possibly being the work of extraterrestrials. People mused that aliens had taken the reproductive organs for testing, but one day, Averill and his friends came across a lance in their path. Attached to it was a cryptic note with a threatening message. "That's when we thought it's got to be people doing this," he went on to say. Then things got really strange. Over the next few days, a series of odd events unfolded. First, the brothers stopped in at a local bar to grab a hamburger, leaving their horses in the back of a stock truck. The horses were packed in tightly, and the Averills were only gone for a few minutes. When they came back, the horses packed into the middle of the truck were mysteriously out. With no signs of struggle, the horses just kind of were now out of the truck. So they had no idea how they could have been unloaded without unloading all the other critters, all the other horses in there. The next day, a new wrangler on the ranch fell off his horse and was badly injured. They'd been riding all together, but not a single other member of the crew saw the accident. It was the weirdest thing, according to them. The man's injuries were so bad that he was left permanently disabled. Finally, the last terrible thing happened. An old camp cook drove out to meet the brothers for a ride during the day, but when he arrived, the tailgate of his stock truck had somehow gone missing, even though it had been there when he had loaded everything up. His horse, Betsy, had fallen out of the truck and been dragged behind the vehicle for God knows how long. Poor Betsy, am I right? I mean, poor Betsy. They had to put her down on the spot. There was just no saving her. It just killed them to see what had happened to the poor horse. It just tore them all up. So 3 things in a row that were so weird all tied together because they were right after they saw this strange spear with this really creepy note. So on face value, each of these kind of left alone, probably not all that odd, right? I mean, you could probably kind of go, well, okay, whatever, kind of coincidence. And I guess that would be the right word. Do you view this as coincidence, or is it something bigger, right? You have these folks that are ultimately killed, that are arranged, it seems like. Later on, you find this really fucking creepy spear with a really fucking creepy note attached to it, and then you have the series of 3 bad events, and bad things come in threes, right? That's kind of a saying. Death comes in threes, bad things come in threes, all things come in threes, right? So then you see all this stuff happening. So put together, it does make for a really, really fucking scary story. Again, you're the judge. I'll let you be the judge. Coincidence or not? Let's move on to our next tall tale. The Ghost of La Parva Ski Resort by storyteller Drew Tabke. Throughout Latin America, you'll hear variations of the La Llorona, or the Wailing Woman. Sometimes she's lost her husband, sometimes she's lost her children, sometimes there's a mixture of those, sometimes it's both. But at the La Parva Ski Resort in the Chilean Andes, the woman is named Lola. So, and let me just insert here, because I really we've been really looking at maybe getting a dog, right? And in particular, a corgi. So hopefully, as I continue through this story, the name Lola isn't completely tainted for me, because we wanted to name the dog Lola. So let's see. But everyone in the area swears they knew her before she died. Even some local restaurant owners have claimed that they have dated her. Other folks have claimed that they dated her. But Drew here, adding that the ski patroller he heard the story from pointed out the exact hut where all of this story takes place. So let's back up and say Drew, the storyteller here, is a professional skier. So somebody in the ski patrol said, hey, look, that little hut is where the story takes place. And the story starts on a nice day in peak ski season. Lola and her young son plan to spend most of the day on the slopes just doing that kind of thing. As it can happen really quickly in these situations, in the Andes, in any kind of mountainous region, a thick fog rose up from the valley, and then all of a sudden you get clouds that envelop the area, and then the two were kind of making their way down from the top, and they lost contact with each other. So automatically, really fucking scary story, right? Imagine hanging out, spending a great day with one of your kids, and then all of a sudden, massive kind of storm front moves in, and now you've lost touch. You just can't find your kid. Really fucking scary story. So desperate to find her son, Lola began screaming his name as she ran through the thick fog, unable to see clearly. She stumbled down a steep slope and began sliding down the rocky ledge. By chance, a local lift operator was there returning to his cabin. He came across her body. He was afraid that she was dead, but on closer inspection, he found that she was still alive, but just barely. Her body was covered in lacerations from sharp rocks, and the only words she said in the faintest whisper was her son's name. The lift operator worked to carefully pull her body to his cabin, which was just up the hill. He bandaged her cuts the best that he could, ran to fetch a doctor. Together, the doctor and the lift operator made their way back to his hut, the fog hanging thickly in the air. It took them some time to get back. When they arrived, the bed was empty and just the bloody sheets remained. Neither the woman nor her son were ever found, but locals report hearing her wail for her child whenever they're near the lift operator's cabin. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Going back to Drew, going back to the storyteller of this, he doesn't believe in ghosts. It's just something that he doesn't believe in. But somehow that changes when he arrives in Chile each winter. Maybe it's the fact of, just hearing the story. Maybe it's just the entire, experience of having another seasoned skier, a ski patrol person point out and say, this is actually where this happened. You can see up and to basically an Incan child sacrifice site from this area as well. So maybe it's that, maybe it's whatever, right? But sitting alone in his cabin in the Andes with the wind whipping around and the candles flickering, he swears that every now and again he can hear the woman, or maybe it's the wind. True or not? I'll let you be the judge. Either way, I know that's a really fucking scary story, right? That is a really fucking scary story. And again, it's one of those ones that's just like classic kind of ghost tale, right? The Wailing Woman. We hear that, that legend in various cultures, and it usually relates to a missing child, a missing something, a missing lover, a husband, a wife. But the Wailing Woman is always a classic. So what do you think? That's 3 ghost stories from 3 different folks that I found as I scoured the internet, preparing for some of our other episodes, gathering some notes. I got to tell you, it was good for me. I hope it was as good for you as it was for me. I had a blast. I liked it. I loved it. I got to have more of it. I thought that was absolutely fun. Remember, season 2 officially debuts March the 5th. I hope that you enjoyed this pre-season get-together, this pre-season episode.